Oh, closures. Closures, I have like a hard time with closures. But let's do a video on closures. I don't know, I think I just have a hard time with them because they look weird. So let me show you a closure and what it does. Basically, a closure is kind of like a function that's stored and executes at a later time. So it's like a function that just kind of floats around in space and executes when it's time to execute. So in that way you can, like maybe you're waiting for a callback from a website, and when the website calls back, you execute a function. That function can float around in RAM in their memory. And so let me show you how to do a closure. So here is a useless closure. Useless closure. Not all closures are useless, but this one is going to be. And so it's like declaring a property kind of, right? But instead you start with the curly brace, and then you throw the parentheses in there, and then you do the end statement, and boom, there's a useless closure. Looks weird, right? It's like you take the parentheses in, which usually in a function is out here, the parameter that you're passing in, but it's like stay inside this block. So basically this block is kind of stored in here. Alright, so that's a useless function, right? But let's make a function that returns a value, a closure that returns a value. Anyone Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fans out there? So like, let the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Now normally you could just do this, equal 42, right? But if it was a closure, so now we're declaring a property that's 42. If it's a closure and you want that to execute at a later time, then you would do again this and that, and now you're returning an int in return 42. Just as simple as that, right? So now you could do the answer to life and everything, and throw a little parentheses after that, and that will be executed. So again, a closure is like a function, essentially like a block, not a function, but like more like a block of code. In fact, I think they're called blocks in like Objective-C that can be executed at a later time. Usually functions are executed right then and there, boom, but sometimes you have to wait to execute a function, and that's when a closure comes in handy. When it's like a block of code that you have to execute at a later time. So let's make a closure that returns a string now. Let's do one with a therapist response. So normally a function would be like this, right? But a closure, you take the parentheses and strangely you throw them inside of here. And let's say this one's going to take a variable in. So the patient's phrase of type string. And then you got to put this little in statement here. And now print. Here's what happens down below. I'm going to print something. What do therapists do? Oh, they just asked in a question form, right? Okay, so here's my therapist's closure. Let's see how this works in action. So, therapist response. Actually, I'm going to make it say therapist's response to, so it just reads a little bit better. Sorry, I should have probably practiced this video first. I'm not feeling well. Okay, let's see how it works with this one phrase. Oh, there it is. Right, so you said I'm not feeling well. Can you tell me more about that? So let's say you have a couple other things. Well, I'm not feeling well. Well, I guess it all started yesterday. And then maybe I fell down. So now you've got this one block of code that's responding differently based on what you pass into it. So it's, I'm not feeling well. Well, I guess sorry, yesterday. Can you tell me more about that? And you see the response is the same. Now you could work extra functionality into here and like put a switch statement in or something like that. But you get the idea. This is a block of code that's stored in here, executed later. Closures, what else? Yeah, I guess that's all that I got for closure for now. Yep, you get it. It's a funky way of storing a block of code to use at a later time. That's closure. Here's a empty, useless closure that's not doing anything, just a structure for you. Here's a closure that's returning an int. Here's how you call a closure. Here is a closure that takes in an argument and prints out a string. If you wanted to return the string instead, of course, not of course, but if you want to return the string instead, it looks like you would do that here. So you would go like this, string. And now instead of printing, you would return. So what we could do is we could do something like this. Let string equal, we'll take this whole puppy here, put it there, and now we can print the string and return the string. First day. First day is Yiddish for understand. Comprende. Okay, enjoy. Closures, lots of fun. Okay, so there's this other thing. There's this other thing that I forgot to mention. And when it comes to closures, sometimes you'll see this $0 business. $0 is just like shorthand for the first argument or like parameter that's passed into the closure. So the first argument that's passed in is referred to as like $0. The second one would be $1 and then $2, like if you have multiple parameters that are passed into the closure. So like an example of that would be, here I've got this all ready for you here. So here's an example. Here's an array of words, fancy words, and now we're going to execute, or we're going to use this closure called filter down here. And you'll see $0.count. So this is referring to the parameter that's referenced. So if the count is less than or equal to 5. So it's weird because it's an array of words, but the parameter it's taking is each of these. So I don't know how to explain that, but basically it's going to check the count of this word, then the count of this word, then the count of this word. It's the parameter that's passing in. So if you see $0, it refers to like a generic property that is passed into a closure. Gosh, that's a terrible way of explaining it. I'll come up with a better way sometime soon, but basically this is shorthand. Let's see what's happening here with my vocabulary. So I'm going to print my vocabulary here. And see what we got. Yep, see, I know these words: good, bad, cool, swift. These other words are too big. Okay, so that's how you use filter, or that's just an explanation of this $0 shorthand. Let me give you another example. There's another one called sort. So if you want to sort the words, you can do words dot sort. This is just another closure that Apple has going on. And you could say $0 is less than $1. And that's sort of like setting up the logic for this. So let's see what happens when we do that. It's called 28 times. And again, this array up here, words, is a variable. So we're trying to sort words. So let's see what happens when we print out the words that we've sorted. So it's going in reverse. Sort $0. I see. So if I change this, let's see if that would change the order. It does. Did you see that? So now it's from A to Z. With it like the other way, it was Z to A. Okay. So this is checking to see if, one word is bigger than the other, is greater than or less than the other, and then sorting it that way. But again, these are just properties, so or arguments. So this is the first argument and the second argument. Not efficiency. It's called 28 times to make that happen. There's only like 10 or 9 or 10 different words here, and it's called 28 times because it's got to loop through this array again, again, again. I happen to know that there's actually a different way to do that. There's words dot sorted by, and then you can sort just by like that. Then I think that's only called once, a more efficient way of calling that. Yeah, see, it's only done once, not like 20 something times. But that's not looking like it's working. Perhaps not a good example if it doesn't work, huh? Oh, I know what it is. This is not correct. It's sort by, not sorted by. Words sort by. There. Let's try that now. Yeah, there we go. There we go. It's sort by, not sorted by. I don't know if you can flip it around, though. I think it might stay the same. And the reason is because of the logic in this sort closure. Oh, yeah, it flips around. Okay, cool. Yeah, it works. So this is just a fancier way to do this up here, and a more efficient way. But again, $0 is just a parameter that's sent into like a generic kind of like shorthand parameter sent into a closure.